My grandmother never picked up a paintbrush and took it to a canvas, or never, as far as I know, ever drew a picture of anything. But she probably taught me more about everything that matters to me about art now than anyone else in my lifetime. And if you've been following me or know me, you know that one of my main missions in life is to spread the joy of art and gardens everywhere. And that directly reflects back to the lessons that my grandmother taught me. It's almost Mayday. And Mayday was a very important holiday in my childhood. Probably the only one that was important that didn't involve candy. And it was all because of my grandmother. She had an extensive garden. That's kind of the way I think of her art. Her garden was her art, and her flowers were beautiful. And she didn't just create a beautiful garden to show off. She loved sharing her flowers with others, and she encouraged me to find ways to help her do that. For instance, she would bring home these out-of-date wallpaper sample books from where she worked, and we never went to the store to buy art supplies. That's one of the number one lessons. We made things out of things that were available to us. So we had these books of wallpaper samples, and right before May Day, she would encourage me, and I'm not sure if it was just me or cousins or siblings, but I remember at least 2 and maybe 3 May days out of my childhood making paper cones out of her wallpaper sample books, and her letting me respectfully and carefully cut flowers from her garden and then make little handles for those cones that held the flowers. And then I got to walk around early on May Day and put them on people's doors. Now, the lesson wasn't just in sharing her flowers. You got to do this secretly. You didn't put your name on it. You didn't knock on the door and say, "Ooh, look at me, what a wonderful thing I'm doing. Thank me and clap for me." You did it secretly, and you got your joy out of just the idea that somebody might be touched by your actions or enjoy what you did. So that was one lesson. And back to making things out of things that you already had. She was also a seamstress, not a professional seamstress. She had a treadle machine in her. That's going to tell you how old I am, because when I was probably 6 or 7, I wanted to learn how to sew, and my feet would not touch the treadle pedal on the machine. So my grandfather put some big blocks on the treadle pedal so that I could learn to sew. Now, she didn't go to the store and buy a pattern and fabric and make something for me, because we just didn't do that. I don't know if we didn't have the money or if it just wasn't a thing we did. I really don't know. I think looking back on it, we might have been just a little on the edge of poor. I never felt poor around her particularly. So she would take apart something she already had, like perhaps a coat that had of hers, a dress suit or dress coat that might have had some wear and tear, or maybe she didn't like it anymore. I don't know. But on Easter, that coat would reappear as a fancy little coat, purse, and sometimes hat for me. She taught me how to make things out of things I already had, or use the things that I already had to make art. Her meringue pies. Oh, they weren't just meringue pies, they were fluffy, golden, fluffy monuments to lemons. That's what they were. I probably have a better way to say that. I'll think of it after I post this video, I'm sure. But so she was very much an artist in terms of how she lived her life. And the other thing that she taught me was that the sharing part of art might have been the most important part. She not only shared her art with everyone, she encouraged me, and I'm guessing the others around me, to share my art. And she encouraged me all the time to make art, either by providing materials or the means in terms of, like, putting the blocks on the treadle machine. And so today, my mission in life to spread the joy of art and gardens everywhere is directly attributable to my grandmother. And the other day, I tried to draw a picture of her, and it brought up a lot of these memories. And so that's when I decided to do my Mayday memorial art walk for my grandmother, Laura Bell Sly Reed Suppmiller Ayres. She outlived 3 husbands. That's another art. So I thought, well, it's not Mayday yet, but in preparation for Mayday, I may take some of this artwork and frame it in a different way, put a handle on it, and spread it out as a Mayday gift on my neighbor's doorsteps with a little note. We'll see. I'm gonna get started. I really was surprised by the number of people that responded to my video about not having to sell your art to be able to consider yourself a successful artist, with questions about what they do with all their art if they don't sell it. For me, that often means giving it away in some charitable way. But I am fortunate that I do not have to make a living at making my art. I am retired, and while I don't have a lot of money, I can pay for my art supplies, and I can pay for my studio, and it is not dependent, my having those things is not dependent on my selling art. When I do sell art, it just makes that process a little more fluid. It lets me do a few more fun things with art supplies, or with sharing art experiences with others. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to take these, I'm going to take a few mats, 30 to be exact. I'm going to take some of my miscellaneous copies of artwork. There might even be some originals in here. And I'm going to look at this see if it works right. There we go. I'm going to make a little framed piece of art. I know it's not original art. I don't think anybody's gonna care. Now, when I give away art, I am conscious of the fact that you don't want to burden people with your art. Like, you don't want to say, here, have some art, and they really don't want it, and they have to find out a way to get rid of it, or seemingly not insult you by not having it hanging in their house. So I never impose that on somebody else. I like it when they ask for art, I can say here, or they express an interest in art or a need for art for some charitable purpose, like maybe a nonprofit raffle or something like that. And I do give away art by abandoning it in places. Like, I am going to abandon these pieces of copies of my artwork on neighbors' doorsteps, but it's going to be with a note on the back and a suggestion. See, I got that all crooked. That if they don't have a desire to keep this, that's perfectly fine. Just pass it on. Spread the joy of art and gardens everywhere.